Speaking as a human rights lawyer, something that we think is really important is clarifying what the role is for any support person that comes with the patient to any appointments. Some people may potentially overstep their role and introduce themselves as, I'm here speaking on behalf of this patient, where it's really important to clarify what their role is. Is that person there to just drive the patient to the appointment? Are they there to go into the appointment with them? Are they there to take notes? What is their role? And it's really important to always go back to the patient. What do they want? What do they feel comfortable with? Do they want the support person to hear this private information, or do they want it to just be one-on-one with the doctor? And that's really important to always check in, because it's different for everybody, and sometimes, understandably, patients can feel a bit uncomfortable saying that in the presence of their support worker. So it's really, really important to check in and see what they feel comfortable with. Something that we always want to remind ourselves is that it's important for others not to speak on behalf of the person with the disability. One example that we've heard has happened to one of our clients is they attended an appointment with a support worker. It was a new support worker. They'd just read the client's file that day. They then went to the appointment. The support worker told the GP, this is what's been happening. The support worker didn't know the patient, but the GP didn't know that the support worker didn't know the patient, so therefore took their word essentially. And in fact, what they were working on was old information, so the GP prescribed medication that wasn't actually relevant or necessary for the patient, which doesn't really help anybody. So it's really important that you're checking in with the patient first and checking in, clarifying what the support worker, their role is, what their history is, what they actually know about the patient if they are providing that information. But support workers can also have a really important role to play. Sometimes the patient may need support from a support worker if they're living in a residential setting and they need someone else to check in to make sure they're taking their medication. So there can absolutely be a role for support workers to play. It's just really important to check in about what that role is and not having them overstep on a case-by-case basis. I think it would be great if they could have a chat to the patient themselves when they come in, and ask the support worker to just step aside, and they can have that chat of, do you feel comfortable with this person coming into the appointment with you? At what point do you want them to leave, or do you want them to join? And that reception staff can pass that on to the GP or to the doctor to make sure that the expectations are clear from the get-go. It absolutely adds an extra layer of complexity if it is a brand new patient that you haven't seen. So you basically go back to the default, be careful about not jumping forward of saying, well, this is someone with a disability, we want to support them, so let's skip a step and just take everything that the support worker is saying, or whoever is there to support them. It's really about taking that time. It may be an extra long appointment just to start off that relationship. It may be checking in more regularly than you would with other patients, or maybe getting the patient's consent to maybe call some of the other people in the patient's life to get that extra layer of history to be able to treat the patient effectively. The default and most important thing that we, even as lawyers, have is checking with our clients, your patients, about how they're feeling. And that may be, on this day, they're happy to have someone with them and someone to hear them. That may change from day to day, and they may not feel comfortable saying exactly how they feel, depending on different settings and depending on whether there are people listening to those conversations. So for us, sometimes we even need to remind ourselves that always check in with the patient to check how they are feeling, what they're comfortable with, and that may change. Even if you have been seeing a patient for 10 years and this person's always been coming in with them, maybe they don't feel comfortable with that. Maybe something happened last week and that changed. So always just keep checking in with the patient. We would very recommend that.